so we can talk about our favorite couple, Brett and Tiffany from season 4, Love is Blind on Netflix. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Keandra Jackson, licensed marriage and family therapist here. Now listen, we have talked about all of the couples thus far, but I'm most excited to talk about our favorite couple because it has been unanimous that they were our faves from season 4, Tiffany and Brett. So if you are new here, hey, but if you are a regular, you already know that I have to give you this disclaimer, and that is if you have not watched the episodes, the whole season actually, press pause, go on over to watch it, binge watch it, come back and watch this review video because I don't want you to be mad at me because there are definitely spoiler alerts all up through and around this review video. Second disclaimer here, as I have been mentioning in all of the reviews of the couples that I've done thus far, these are real human beings. And I am a real therapist in real life, and I don't believe in dragging people when they took the time to have vulnerable, open moments about their love life, their family, and just been an open book. So I'm not as tacky, not tacky at all, actually, as some of the other review videos that you guys have been seeing and doing from other people. We're going to have some tact and some class over here. I like to break these videos down in sections. So we're going to talk about the pods. We're going to talk about how they met and what that vibe was the first time that they saw each other. We're going to talk about Mexico, aka the honeymoon, as I like to call it. We're going to talk about their little apartment living situation, the wedding, and the reunion. So in the pods, I knew off the rip that Tiffany and Brett was going to be my favorite. I think that they were both very vulnerable. They were open. They were honest. And they were truthful about their back history when it came to their families and also about the things that they wanted and desired in a mate, a companion, and what they were looking for moving forward. And Tiffany listened really well. I was watching her and she really soaked in the things that Brett had to say. Also wasn't afraid to share her own thoughts and feelings either. She was like, look, I'm 36. Never been married. I want kids. This is what I want in my life. And so are you going to be able to help me reach my goals? Are you the person to help me get to that goal on this journey? But we all know that Tiffany got into a little mishap when she decided to accidentally fall asleep on Brett in the pods. I'm talking about baby was knocked out, talking about snoring and all of the things. And it's crazy because she picked the worst timing ever to fall asleep when he was literally confessing his love to her and saying that he wanted to be with her. She was the one, blah, blah, blah. And this girl was over there asleep. So she really didn't fully even hear what Brett had to say. Now, I know that that was twofold, right? I'm sure that they have very long film days. Typically, when I have been on set for reality TV shows as an expert, there are 14, 16-hour shoot days. I'm talking about it's long days. So I'm sure she was tired, especially if they had to date multiple people throughout the whole entire day. So I'm not going to shade her on that because I'm a napper. I like to sleep too. So I'm not mad at her for that, but it was the wrong time. And that could have been the moment that could have messed up everything if Brett wasn't forgiving and if Marshall didn't come in to the rescue. Because what happened was Brett thought she left the room, right? Because remember, they can't see each other. So if you're talking to somebody and y'all are vibing out and you're like, hello, Tiffany, are you there? And there's crickets on the other side. The first thing I would have thought was like, oh, this person left the room. They're not interested in me. They don't, like what is going on? Like I would have went there too in his mind. And I think that was his first initial reaction. But I think he took it a step further because he was like, I'm done with her. This is it. Like, I can't believe this. And it was Marshall who came behind him and said, look, bro, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened. I wasn't even there, but you got something dope with Tiffany. You need to talk to her about it. You need to explore the option. Don't give up. Like, keep going, thug it out, essentially. And so we can thank Marshall for helping Brett get to a situation and a perspective where he was able to go and talk to Tiffany. And I'm glad that when they did talk and come back into the pod and she admitted that she fell asleep, I'm sure it was a relief for him, like, okay, cool, she fell asleep. It was late. She was tired. My voice is soothing. As she mentioned, his voice was very soothing to her. And so it wasn't anything that he said or done wrong. But I could also understand the nervousness that Tiffany felt because she was freaking out too, like, oh my God, is Brett still here? What happened? What did he say? Where did he go? I don't even know. Like, it could have been so bad for her. But thank God there's grace, huh? Thank God that there is second chances. Thank God that they were able to work it out because they were definitely a great couple. They are a great couple, and they easily became our faves because we also didn't see as much drama and toxic foolishness that we saw with some of the other couples. And I can appreciate the fact that there's always a couple or two who just has healthy elements to them. And it's not just all about the TV and the drama, but these are real people who essentially work through their stuff, but not allowing those moments when they are triggered to send them downward spiral. One of the things that I enjoyed most about Brett is that he was so open and vulnerable about sharing his story about his brother with Tiffany. He could have kept that to himself. He could have been like, yo, this is so sensitive and raw for me. Like, I'll tell you this after we get married. I'll tell you this after I see you in person. But he was so open and honest about that, about losing his brother and especially losing him in the way that they lost him as far as like just a few days before he was going to get married. And so I do think that that colored and just added a different perspective and a different drive to Brett about how he didn't want to waste his life and how he wanted to seize all the moments and he wanted to live life to the max and not have to look back on anything and say, I regret it not proposing to Tiffany, or I regret it, not going all in and giving my fullness to this experience. And so I want to applaud him for that vulnerability because that was definitely something that I think was a game changer and helped facilitate their relationship to move along. When he also gave Tiffany that little shoe, that little white shoe situation, I was like, oh, Brett, we see you, Brett. And I thought that was just so cool and so dope. And, that really just showed us, but that also showed Tiffany that he was giving her a piece of him, and it was just really beautiful to watch it unfold. So let me tell you, when they first saw each other, I immediately knew. I've never been so sure. I immediately knew. I was like, oh, this is a real connection, right? Like I have heard, and other people from, previous seasons have said, there is a longing and a desire to want to stay on the show. So they'll pretend to like somebody, or, they'll try to see it along as much as possible. But this, I immediately knew. I was like, no, this is real. They have an instant connection. Like they were vibing out. Like you can tell the energy was there. The kiss that they had, that first kiss, I was like, oh yeah. I know chemistry when I see it. I know connection when I see it, honey. And that was absolutely connection. I think that they were both physically and sexually attracted to one another. Just added to the flavor and the desire of them wanting to be together. Because once you have connected with someone on an emotional level, especially if you've never seen them before, when you do see them and you find them attractive and their sexual energy, baby, you couldn't ask for a better combination than that. So let's talk about the honeymoon, aka Mexico. I think the things that I have already mentioned just seem to amplify and seem to get confirmed by the other castmates. Everybody knew, all of the other castmates knew that Brett and Tiffany, they were the one and the two. Like they were gonna make it. They chose well. Like it was a good connection, and love is for real blind with them too. I think everybody confirmed that and they knew it. And it wasn't just this knowing, but it was evident. It was the way that they talked about each other, right? The way that he talked about her and she talked, I was like, ooh, this is good to me. I was so excited. The kisses that they had were so passionate. They were so into one another. And I know that I don't know how accurate it is, but I believe that they weren't technically intimate while they were in Mexico the first few nights or whatever the case may be. She said, we did other stuff, but we didn't go all the way. But she was definitely honest and turned on by him and he was turned on by her. And you can tell that there was just connection there. They had a really, really great connection. One thing that I want to add that these two did that I didn't see with other couples is that they respected each other well in each other's presence and outside of each other's presence, right? Like we've seen with other couples, with Micah and Paul, with Irina flirting and Chelsea and not Chelsea, Kwame and Micah flirt. Like we seen people that were like, we seen how Jackie responded when she first saw Brett, like, oh, he fine. Like we seen all of these moments where people were just like, y'all are borderline sketchy, okay? But we didn't see any of that. Not to say that it didn't happen, but we didn't see any of that. They were so solid. They were so respectful. They did not embarrass each other. I did not have secondhand embarrassment on this one, okay? I had secondhand embarrassment watching some of the other couples, but not on this one. And so I think everyone just knew and understood that they were going to make it, and everybody seemed to be rooting for them since day one. Now, when they got to the apartments and they did the little apartment living, playing house, essentially, there were some things that I wish that they would have discussed in more depth. Now, I know that they probably could have had, again, longer conversations that weren't aired, but one of the big ones that I kept hearing Tiffany say was like, bougie Brett. Brett is bougie. He got so much shoes. He likes to dress nice. And one of the biggest issues was that Brett said that he spent a whole bunch of money, $1,500 or something super pricey for a piece of luggage. And Tiffany was like, what? Ain't no way, And so he was like, yo, I like nice things. I can afford nice things. I grew up not having nice things. And so if I can provide that and provide that lifestyle for myself now, why wouldn't I? And so I think Tiffany might be a little bit more reserved with her funds and a little bit more laid back, not necessarily buying lavish things. Brett had all the shoes. I ain't never seen so many. I said, bro, you don't even have enough room in your closet. You had to build a wall with little cubby holes. I felt like it was like at daycare. You know how each kid has a little cubby hole and you put their stuff in there? That's what he had for his shoes, a little cubby hole for each shoe. You had so much shoes and so many shoes that you didn't even have space to put them in your own closet, Like y'all are going to have at least 3 closets in order for her to put her stuff in, you to put your clothes in, and then a separate closet for your shoes, So I'm not mad at the fact that he likes to dress nice and, he has nice things and wants nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think the finances is probably an area that they are going to have more conversations about, be more transparent about. And it's going to be an ongoing dialogue versus it being a one-off situation, because finances play a huge role. How money is spent plays a huge role in any marriage in regards to spending, saving, debt, financial goals, all different types of things. So you have to talk about money, how it's being used and spent, how are we blending it, all of those things as quickly as possible. The things that I loved about Brett and Tiffany is that even when they started to meet each other's family and friends, it went so well. You can tell that Brett and Tiffany had a really great relationship for real in real life, because it was evident how people responded to them. Like Brett's dad and brother was like, yeah, she's dope. Like the way y'all met is unconventional. I will agree with that. But it seems like you guys are sure about one another. Even when Brett met Tiffany's friends and all her friends were like, now look, don't come in here cutting the fool, because we know how to get to work if need be, because she's a great woman. And, people and men have mishandled her previously. Like, I love the fact that there was protectiveness of their friend, but also it wasn't defensive and drama like we saw with Micah's friend and her whole toxic friend group, which we'll talk about in another video that I'll link up here so y'all can watch. It's important how your family and friends see your partner too, right? And so I'm not saying that has to be the end all be all, because there are some situations where people's family and friends are negative and toxic and they're the issue and the relationship is not the issue. But in this instance, when you're getting positive feedback from all of your family and friends and saying, yeah, go for it. If you with it, I'm with it. I think that just warms your heart and it makes you want to continue to move forward in the relationship instead of trying to potentially, give up because it's not done in the most traditional or orthodox way, like most people tend to meet each other. But it's gonna make for a good story. It's gonna make for a good love story to tell their kids, right? So me and your dad went on this experiment and we never saw each other and we were just talking to a wall for like 7 days. And then he proposed to me. And when we met, we were actually attracted to one another and we lived happily ever after. Like, that is going to be the craziest story. Their kids are gonna be like, you did what? And then they'll have proof. Okay, let me turn on this Netflix show so y'all can see that we weren't lying, And so it's going to be a really dope, cute, story for them, if they continue to go along and make it. While they were also in the apartments, I loved how Brett was so comforting to Tiffany. The moment when they were on the couch in the apartment and she broke down because of the stress of the wedding and it was just a lot of moving parts. And she was like, I just wish we wasn't even having a wedding, period. I felt like he didn't rush her. I felt like he wasn't like, don't feel that way. He just let her cry. He held her. He kissed her. She had little boogies in her nose. He just let it be. Like, he just let her have her moment and just showed up to confirm and affirm her and say, yeah, this is crazy. Yes, this is a lot. I understand. And so what you're feeling is valid and it's normal. Like, that was just such a cute moment. And, I want to applaud him for how he responded to, her feeling. When we got to the wedding, I already knew both of them were saying yes. I just knew. I knew that I knew that I knew. And I was so glad that Brett had a conversation with Tiffany's dad. Tiffany's dad's face was so like, I didn't know how he felt at first, right? He was very good and keen and straight with his words. And he gave his blessings, of course, but his facial expressions was like, play with my daughter if you want to. I got something for you. Like that protective father vibe, which I can appreciate. But I love that he had that conversation and asked for his blessing. I think that was so cute. That was such a great moment. And I believe that, that is going to be what solidifies even Brett and his father-in-law's relationship, because he had that one-to-one man-on-man conversation some of the other couples didn't get a chance to have with their partner's parent. I knew they were saying yes. I was so happy and excited. It seemed like their wedding was so cute and we were all here for it. Their wedding and their reception seemed to be like the littest, meaning like, they had the most, fun, so to speak, and dancing and things of that nature. Even though we only saw a small snippet of it, it seemed like everybody that was in attendance was supportive. And we were here for it. Now, let's talk about this reunion. I'm so happy a year later, they are still married. I'm so happy that them being on the show confirmed that they were my favorite couple and y'all's favorite couple too, because when they were introduced on the reunion, the crowd went crazy, okay? They were loud and cheering, and you can even tell, like, Tiffany's smile was just like, oh my God, like, we're getting so much love here. But it really just is a representation of how well they stayed on the journey and the sacrifices that they made. Brett shared that Tiffany sacrificed a lot. She moved her job, she moved locations to go and live and be near him in his city. And that's what relationships and marriage is all about. It's about compromise. It's about saying, hey, if we want to make this thing work and we live in two different places, somebody got to move. I got to move to you, you got to move to me, or we're going to mutually move somewhere else. And so for her to take that sacrifice, that leap, that compromise, and trust her new husband, that just showed how confident she was in her decision and in his decision to be able to be the man and take care of her as well. As much as Tiffany talked about, I'm 36, I've never been married, I want kids, it was surprising to me that they both agreed that they were going to take their time with having children. Now, I'm not here to judge. People are having kids later in life, okay? And there's no judgment, any room for judgment in that instance. I just thought from a personal perspective that they would plan to have children a little bit earlier or a little bit sooner than some of the others, because she talked so much about her biological clock and being 36 and wanting children and not wanting to have all of the complications that, being an older parent could entail. So that was actually surprising to me, but I really appreciated the fact that she talked about Brett, continuously dating her. She was like, he's really good at like dating me and courting me still, and not getting stagnant into the routine and just being like, well, we married now, it's whatever, but really still continuing to pursue her and, love on her. I thought that was so dope. And so I hope that she's equally doing the same thing to him, because we want to make sure that there's reciprocity in the marriage. And, I just want to thank them for sharing their journey with us. I am absolutely going to follow them on social media. There are a couple that I want to follow along on their journey to see, how it pans out. There have been other couples in other seasons who, stay together for a little while and wind up getting divorced later. I hope that isn't their story, but I do want to stay connected with them to see how it all pans out. So thank you for taking the time to watch another review video. Make sure to watch the ones up here so you can stay connected with all of the other reviews that I had for all of the other couples. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.